Hello everyone. This is the fifth and final part of my interview with former Scientologist Shane Weightman. We've covered how Shane grew up in Scientology, and after becoming staff at the London church, he experienced and learned things about Scientology that caused him to doubt what he had been part of his whole life. He was sent to the Flag Service Org in Clearwater, Florida to get his head straightened out. There, they tried to convince him that all the things he'd seen and heard were all lies, that his bad thoughts about Scientology were due to his own moral transgressions, and that if he turned his back on Scientology, he'd become part of a depraved and horrible world that was bent on nothing but destruction. They also tried to tell him that the woman he loved was an antisocial psychotic, and that he needed to break up with her for his own good. She had been a Scientologist in good standing for most of her life and had actually made it to the highest levels of Scientology's bridge to total freedom. It was only when she started having her own doubts and reservations about Scientology that she was deemed psychotic. Shane was not convinced, and he was sent back to London to be dealt with by his parents. They had been part of the Office of Special Affairs, Scientology's covert operations and legal division, and in this final part of our interview, we learn what Shane had to go through and how he finally escaped the prison of belief. Here's Shane.
Anyway, I go through a whole week of speaking with my parents, very similar to how I had been speaking with Kathy True at OSA. Talking outrage references, talking this, talking that, talking about ideal orgs, talking about how, when's the next time the basics are going to be re-released, and when's the next time you're going to get your non-clear artifactor, and when's the next time there's going to be golden age of tech 2. Oh wait, has that happened?
At that point, that's happened now.
Yeah, it hadn't
But at the
happened.
time, yeah.
And funnily enough, they got their non-clear artifactor, and they've had to redo steps, and they've, so just crazy, stupid stuff for a whole week. Just back and forth, and every night I'm driving back to Chrissy's place. And I'm staying with Chrissy because I just can't stay there. I can't just decompress and relax and think clearly when I'm there because it's just question. Now, throughout this whole week, I'm also reading everything about everything. The truth about
On the internet?
On the internet, yeah.
Oh boy, so you're going down the rabbit hole now.
I am, yeah.
Okay.
And they're trying to keep me from doing that, but every day it's just more questions and more stuff and
So now you're being exposed to real truth.
And the whole and the, all these stories and this and that and
are they telling you these are all just lies?
To
on
some
the internet?
Degree, yeah,
or?
to some degree, yeah. They're telling me they're lies, exaggerated, media, SPs, the usual lines. You're trying to pick up policies on fundraising.
But they haven't even read this stuff that you're reading.
They have.
They
know a lot of it because they've been in OSA.
Yeah,
but they know the truth of it.
Yeah.
As well because they've been in OSA.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they know about the whole.
Okay.
I'm sure they think that's a lie.
Yeah.
But they don't. See, they have some information, right?
Right. Did you talk to them about, had you, like, Snow White? Or any of that stuff? Or, okay, so you're throwing other stuff at them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of it is more, again, it's all a blur, so exactly what was discussed every single night for 4 or 5 hours a night is a nightmare, to try to remember.
I'm tracking on
But
that.
I just remember policies and books and ethics books and
this is from your parents
PTSSP courses. This is in my living room, or in my parents' living room.
Right.
Them trying to handle me.
Right.
Every night,
Right.
Yeah.
They're not answering your questions either.
Well, I'm pretty much spending the day with Chrissy and then evenings with them.
Oh, okay, got it.
So
you're bouncing between two poles here.
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
And in this meantime, I still want to figure everything out. I'm still brainwashed Scientologist. I still speak Scientologies. I still want to use the LRH policies and tech to figure everything out. There's got to be an answer somewhere, a way where all this actually makes sense.
Yeah.
and I'm determined, and but I'm getting the truth from both sides, from the internet, from Chrissy and Sam, from my parents, all that stuff. And there was one day, it's pretty much a day, going back a few days, it's pretty much a day where Chrissy and I came back from the hotel. My parents were waiting at Chrissy's house in their car. And the second I got there, they were like, we need to talk with you separately. We need to get you away from Chrissy, and we just want to talk.
Yeah, divide and conquer.
Yeah, and so I go in there and I go to Chrissy and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to go with my parents for coffee, for a drink real quick. And so she comes out with me, and my dad just apeshit, starts screaming at her, pointing in her face. And he's 5'11", he's probably a little over 200 pounds. So he's a pretty big guy, and Chrissy's 5'3", she's like 110 pounds at the time or whatever, and he's like pointing at her face like, you're not invited, don't come with us. And just like, it's the first time I really started seeing a side of my parents that I had never seen before, and I think even maybe the next night or the night after that, that's when I started going to my parents every night and all that stuff. And just, I obviously don't want to lose Chrissy, and I don't want to lose my parents. So exactly. I'm in this like complete, position where I either lose all my friends that I've known my entire life and my parents, or I lose Chrissy, who I'm in love with, and I deep down know is not right to leave her. And that's why I'm trying to figure it out. But I'm so screwed up here with all these
plus there's all this information
thoughts
going on in your head that is the unresolved questions.
I'm spinning and I'm reeling and I'm just whatever.
Yeah.
So, happens every night. We're talking, blah, blah, blah. Boring. To go back real quick, when I came back from Flag, when I met Chrissy and I was trying to get with girls and stuff, I was at St. Hill, and not my twin, but I was working with her and I was helping her, was Marika.
Oh.
Marika Bacchus.
Brousseau,
Yeah, Brousseau now.
Yeah.
Bacchus at the time. And she was on student hat, and I'd just come back from Flag, so I was star rating her and coaching her and helping her with all that stuff. And we got pretty close, we became good friends, but she was engaged with somebody else. And I never wanted to stir the pot or cause any problems. She's a cute girl, it was whatever. We were teasing each other, but it was never harmful, And her fiance at the time, Mark, I don't remember his last name, but he was from Birmingham, York. Anyway, he started getting pretty protective over her, and rightly so, but as the weeks went on, pretty aggressively, like, he even told the Regis one point, the guys trying to get money out of him, that he would donate money if they beat me up. Yeah. And you can ask Marika this, I'm sure he'll deny it if he's ever asked, but this was...
Jesus.
Yeah, and I didn't know about this till way down the line. She never told me that, but we definitely talked, and he confronted me about stepping and moving away from Marika and not speaking to her ever again and that kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, dude, I'm friends. I get it. Anyway, I have a point to this.
Yeah.
So my parents, every night, we'd talk, and one night they said, hey, do you remember Mark? I was like, yeah, that douchebag that was engaged to Marika. And I had no idea Marika had blown. When I was at Flag and stuff. I found out during that week because she was one of the people that came out or something like that on the blogs. My parents told me, they're like, hey, Mark may be swinging by tonight to talk to you about things. I'd be like, no, I'm good. I don't like that guy, Like, well, he might just swing by. He has a similar opinion on... He's been through something very similar. because he was in love with Marika, and except they went opposite ways. He was the hero in Scientology's eyes, and
Right.
left her and bailed her out for crap, and broke her heart and whatever. And so,
They want you to do what he did.
yeah, they want me to do what he did.
Right.
Exactly. So because they found out from Osa that there was a similar scenario going on, or that had happened, and a positive note had happened out of it,
That he had stayed with the church.
that he had stayed with the church.
That being the positive note.
They wanted him to get me to realize the same things that he realized and break up with Chrissy and just move on.
Right.
And they're like, well, he may come, he may not. And after speaking with my parents for a few hours, he arrives at the door. And we sit down in our living room, and my mom goes in her office, and my dad goes in his kind of corner of the living room, which is where he was working. It was a pretty long living room. So my dad can hear the whole conversation because he's 15 feet, over there. And I'm sitting next to Mark. And Mark is like, first off, I want you to know that everything between you and me and Marika and all that stuff is water under the bridge. Okay? No, I have no grudges, nothing against you. I just want you to know that. I'm like, okay. I was over this, like...
Yeah, you're like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What do you want? And he starts pretty much telling me how much of a wimp I am, and how if I stay with Chrissy, I'm letting the SBs and the enemy win. And I'm letting Scientology lose. And he's calling me a pussy. He calls me a pussy. And my dad in the back, I remember looking back, and he nods and says, like, yeah, something like that. And I was just like,
This is supposed to change your mind. This is supposed to handle you.
well, it's kind of breaking my heart
Uh-huh.
to see my dad nod. And he has a point in one way or another, because I don't want the SPs to win. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And he's like, look, I've been through it. It's okay. You'll come through on the other side stronger, and I'll find somebody better, and this wasn't meant to be if it's so hard. And I don't remember exactly what he says, but he gets me to completely break down. I mean, completely break down. And I start crying, and because I start realizing that as a Scientologist, he's right.
Mm-hmm.
As a normal human being, he's completely wrong. But as a Scientologist, which I still was, he's right. And I start crying because I realize that the right thing to do is to break up with Chrissy and to move on and to figure it out. So after a while in this conversation, I'm just crying, and he's like, okay, you need to break up with her. And I say, okay, and he goes, you email her right now that you're done. I'm like, no. He wanted me to email her and tell her that we were done so that I didn't have to go speak to her. I'm like, no way. I'm going to break up with her, but I'm going to do it face-to-face. So he drives me over to her house. And I go in there, and I'm bawling, and I'm like, we need to speak right now. And it's freezing outside. She's in her pajamas. So she just grabs a hoodie or something like that. And it's freezing outside. It's pretty much kind of sleeting. It's like half snowing, half raining. Freezing cold. It's like a humid cold in England, and just miserable night. And Chrissy and I just walk down the road, and he is parked outside her house in the car. She doesn't know this. And he's like, I will wait for you here. I'll drive you back to your parents once you're done, once you're over. Here's my number, blah, blah, blah. And I walk down the end of the street, and I'm trying to tell Chrissy, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. She's like, can't do what? She has no idea what's been going on. Because earlier that day, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to tell my parents I'm done. I was pretty much done with.
Had your parents made it clear that if you stayed with her, It was disconnection time?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So this was crystal clear now.
Yeah.
There was no waffly about the decision that was being made.
Not only that, but I would also lose all my friends,
Right.
all my staff members, all the teams that I was a part of.
Right. They actually had said these things. Like,
Yes.
this was on the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like no remorse almost, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they would say it in a way that they would just expect me to choose them over Chrissy.
There was never any
And-
question in their
yeah.
mind that, well, of course.
Yeah.
Like, look, lose the bitch. Like,
Yeah.
there's no question.
Yeah,
Here.
my dad would tell me things like there's plenty more fish in the sea, screw Chrissy, whatever,
Mhm.
you know. So anyway, I'm trying to get these words out of my mouth, and Chrissy's like, "You can't do what? What are you talking about?" And eventually I say, "Us." And she flips out and she starts hitting me, and she's like, "What?" She starts hitting my arm, and she's like, after all this fucking traveling around, and after all this back and forth every day, now's the time you're gonna break up with me? And I don't want to forget this, but this whole week, Chrissy was like, "Listen, if you need to break up with me, I get it. You can't lose your parents and your friends. You have to do what's right for you." So my parents, the good, best people on the planet Earth, Scientologists, are giving me this horrible ultimatum. And Chrissy, who, you know, I love, is
Doing the exact opposite.
doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You know, and she's not pushing me away. And she's crying, and I'm crying, and I tell her that Mark's there, and then I'm gonna head back, and she's like, "No." She starts running towards the car, and I pick her up, and so she doesn't hit him or speak to him, and I just say, "Let's just keep walking and talking." And I'm still trying to make sense of everything. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to understand what's going on, and I'm crying, and I'm telling her it's not going to work out, but I don't want to break up with her, that I still love her, but that I can't lose my parents and my friends, and she's like, "I never forced you to do anything. I never, you know, this whole week I've been telling you to just go to them, you know, and after sticking out with you this whole week and flying back and forth between America and here, getting hotel rooms, now you're going to break up with me?" And I just say, "Yeah, I just can't do it." You know, I'm still shocked from the conversation from before. And this guy, Mark, in the meantime, is texting me like, "Come on, man, just pull it together. I'm here for you. Let me drive you back to your mom and dad, and I'll come pick you up right now. Where are you?" And he started driving around the neighborhood, and we saw his car, and we hid behind another car and stuff, and then that was it. I mean, we'd broken up. That was the end. I was going to do Scientology, I guess, and somehow get all my questions answered. And I think 15 minutes after I'd broken up with Chrissy, and we were still together. Literally, we were together in the street still.
Mm-hmm.
Clearest moment of my life, I just woke up. It was just like a ding. It was just
The clouds parted, the angels.
clouds, yeah, literally all that.
Sudden clarity.
And I realized it wasn't her, it wasn't Osa, it wasn't my friends, it wasn't my parents, it was Scientology.
Right.
And I really realized for the first time that it was Scientology as a whole forcing me in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Chrissy, and it wasn't Sam, and it wasn't Marty Rathbun, and it wasn't Mike Rinder, and it wasn't Mark Headley. It wasn't anybody but the teachings of Scientology as a whole.
Right. That's right.
And it was all the references of Scientology, it was all the policies, it was the group forcing me to do these things I didn't want to do. And I realized right then and there, fuck him. I really did. I was like, I don't have to follow these policies. It's the weirdest thought to somebody who's just watching it. Like, yeah, no shit, you don't have to follow them. But
Right.
when you're born following them and trusting them without a second of a doubt,
Your entire life.
entire life, like
you were raised with this.
that's how you're raised, right?
Right.
I mean, if you're raised, eating popcorn every day and that's what you have to eat for breakfast, then maybe that's just what you're going to eat for the rest of your life. Or
Right.
That's probably a horrible analogy, but
Well, we could stretch it, but yeah,
But,
it's there's
like,
that thing. You didn't have any other reality in your life,
no, and
so this was huge.
and I realized for the first time in my entire life that I did not have to listen to RH. I did not have to be a Scientologist. I did not have to do what my parents or Scientology were telling me to do. I did not have to do anything, and that if I wanted to be with Chrissy, that was okay. It was more than okay, because that's what I wanted to do
Right.
in the first place. And that if my parents and my friends were going to disconnect from me and stop talking to me because I wanted to be with the person that I love, that they had no space in my life. And right then and there, it was like 1,000,000 pounds just off my shoulders.
Yep.
And the last 6 months of being at Flag and sec checks and courses and reading policies and all the nightmare that just had been building up in my head was just gone. And I was done with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
understand.
So Chrissy and I sneaked off. I texted Mark. I was like, hey, dude, Chrissy's going to drive me home later.
He must have been pissed.
And so he
He's like watching
Yeah.
his commend fall into tatters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I'm still going to break up with Chrissy, knowing that I wasn't going to. I just needed him out of there.
Yeah.
And so Chrissy and I kind of sneaked through these back streets back to her house. By the time we got back, it must have been maybe 1 a.m. Freezing cold. We were both completely soaked, especially her. She was in pajamas.
Right.
I was wearing jeans and stuff, but took a warm bath, and Sam Domingo helped us, and she booked a flight for us back to San Diego that night. So 2 hours later, we were at Heathrow Airport. Flying
Wow.
back. Yeah.
Just, that's it, we're done.
Yeah. So I was done. I didn't see my parents.
You just left all your shit in London and you just got on a plane and...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was it.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That is just like you were done.
Yeah, I know, and thanks to Sam for booking those flights for us and
Yeah.
stuff. But we were gone. We were out of there,
You had your moment.
and we were on our way to Chrissy's parents. And
Wow.
then, yeah,
And that was it.
and that was like early mid-January,
So what has
2010.
been 2010? So
Yeah.
now, what has been the contact with your family since then?
So I guess this is a whole other chapter now in this interview.
Is it? Okay.
So I haven't. So okay. So to give you the real quick rundown, Chrissy and I were with her parents in San Diego. Oh, real quick. When I landed at LAX, they saw my religious visa, and they know how crazy Scientology is there. And I did. You're supposed to file a piece of paperwork when you arrive that goes with your visa to give them information. I did not. I was planning on going there on a waiver.
Oh, okay.
So when I got there,
But you're still under the visa.
yeah, but the visa was not valid for LA. It was pretty specific to what I could do and
Mhm.
stuff. When I got there, I was like, no, I'm not here for my religious visa. I was like, trust me, I'm done with this.
Done with that crap. Yeah.
And the dudes, the TSA guys or whoever it was, detained me, and they didn't believe me. And I was there for half an hour, and I told them the whole story, and eventually they went to Chrissy, and she told them the whole story, and they released me. And then they were super cool, and they're like, we get so many weirdos flying in and all that stuff. I was like, I get it. I'm just glad, I didn't have to stay there and whatnot.
Right.
So anyway, I'm in San Diego with Chrissy, and
And her SP parents.
And her horrible, horrible SP parents who are letting us stay there and feeding us and who are honestly amazing people.
Yeah,
And,
they are very cool people.
extremely, her dad is funny. He's really cool. Her mom is super sweet and helpful. And that was my first time meeting them,
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. And we spent the next few months just de-brainwashing ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't gone into the OT, BT, Xenu stuff yet. So I went into that. I learned all about that. But yeah, we met with Mary Jo and Ivan Oblinsky, Jamie and Tiziano Lugli, Greg Cook, who was Mary Jo's son. We met with just a whole bunch of people. Astra Woodcraft. We just started speaking to everybody. And then our story came out on the blog too. Because when Chrissy and I got reunited at the airport, that was one of the blogs that we posted on Marty's blog. And yeah, it was just crazy. So we were there for a few months, just completely reading A Piece of Blue Sky, all those books, and learning the real truth and deciding for ourselves really what was it. And we decided that, there were the whole wave of, what are they called? Not ex-Scientologists, but...
Indies?
Yeah.
Yeah, independent Scientologists, yeah.
We kind of are we independent? Are we not? And, just came out the other end realizing that we weren't. We were completely done with...
You went all the way through the tunnel.
All the way through,
Yeah.
We did not, we learned the truth about our age. We, had pretty much, for the most part, made up our own minds on religious status, what that was. And, but it's very hard to stop yourself from speaking Scientologies.
It's one of the most key points of recovery is getting that flushed out of your system.
And so Chrissy and I would catch each other, and then we'd find the correct, normal human society word for that.
Right.
And we're like, oh, that's what that means? Oh, whoops.
Yeah,
so,
translate it all into English.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good also that you didn't pit stop in the indie area, because that's quite, just to be bluntly honest, seriously, just to be blunt, that's a way to prevent your full recovery.
Yeah, well, that's
that is what that is. Because you hold on to the language.
Yeah.
You hold on to the concepts, and there are thought-stopping concepts and principles all throughout Scientology.
Yeah, and we, I guess, as we left, were automatically independent Scientologists. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Chrissy and I got married while I was out there, and then we got her a visa to be able to live in England, because she hadn't gotten her visa from Sam yet. She'd been on 6-month waivers back and forth a bunch of times.
Herself,
yeah.
The opposite direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Because Sam was still living in London.
Yeah.
Right.
So she got a visa so that we could all live out there indefinitely, But yeah, we got married, and then the blog came out about the first independent wedding. It was a big deal of Chrissy and I as a couple making it through or whatever. It was...
Sure.
It was entertaining.
People like good news.
It was entertaining and fun at the time, and then after that, we were pretty much done with it. We were all over it. So that was cool. That was the first time I met the Headleys, Marty. I hadn't met Mike yet. Mike Rathburn. Mike Rinder, sorry. And it was pretty cool. It was actually really fun, because right after that, I read Blown for Good. I read all of those books, Amy Scobie, and all these people came at our wedding party that Mary Jo put together.
Oh, nice.
So it was a big SP...
SP convention at the wedding,
convention, and it was fun. It was cool. And we had a good time, so...
Yeah. Nobody talking about disconnection and how you can't be connected to blah, and none of that.
So to give you the rest of the stuff, and real quick fast forward, to answer your question on family and communication.
Yeah.
I was still in touch with my parents.
So they were still talking to you?
Yeah, but they were trying to handle me. They weren't talking to me. You know what I mean? When I told my dad that Chrissy and I got married, it was like, got it, just not even congratulations or something like that. I'd have to go over the emails, maybe he did, but it was
This was email communication?
Email, yeah.
Okay,
no phone.
So you weren't on the phone?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
All email. We ended up going back to England once Chrissy got her visa. And then, we lived with Sam for a while. We moved to another place that was out of East Grinstead, so that, because I kept seeing Scientologists. I'd be like, hi, and then they wouldn't answer me walking down the street, completely ignore me, or give me evil stares and all that stuff. So
the word was out on you?
Oh yeah, 100%. Everybody knew not to talk to me, or some people didn't, and I kind of had fun with that. But no, it was, we lived in England. I eventually got a job. Chrissy got pregnant with our first Kieran, and we moved out of Sam's place into our own place. And then eventually when Kieran was right around when Kieran was born, we applied for my visa because we decided to go back to the States.
Okay.
Yeah. I was pretty much done with England. I never liked England in the first place. Chrissy was missing her family, so...
You're married to an American now.
Yeah, so it was a lot easier. So I got a visa. Funny, when we went to the British Embassy, they're like, you have a religious visa for Scientology. And I was like, yeah, I don't want that anymore. And they're like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, please. And they go, denied. And they put a stamp on there that was like, accepted the cancellation or something like that. I was like, yes. Just moving on. Yeah, exactly. But I did get a visa with Chrissy, and we moved to the States. I started working with Headley. And in this whole time, I was...
This is when they were still living in LA.
Yeah.
So you
No, they had just moved out to Castle Rock.
Oh, okay. So you came out here.
But Mark was doing a job in LA, finishing up some stuff. So he hired me on for a few months and told me a bunch of stuff. But
cool.
Again, very good roads, good weather. My parents, I was still emailing with them. Very rarely. But what I started to realize after I moved to Castle Rock, another 6 months down the line, Karen was about a year old. My parents would only reach out to me if I reached out to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to see what would happen if I did not communicate with them. I didn't send them anything for 6 months, and they never once tried to email me, call me, text me, Skype me, anything. Not even once. And then I started having these conversations with my mom, and eventually she disconnected from me. And we had a full conversation. I remember being at work, and I just had to completely stop working so I could speak to her. And we spoke for maybe an hour and a half. And she was like, you have to come back and do the right thing and fix your blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to disconnect from me? And she says, no, I don't. I go, then why are you doing it?
Right.
She goes, I want to make it up the bridge. I want to do my OT levels. It's the one thing I've always wanted to do in Scientology. And I'm like, Mom, why do you want to be part of a group that's telling you who to and who not to speak to? And even more importantly, why would you want to be part of a group where you've dedicated 30 years of your life in the Sea Org to not have even made it past clear?
Right. Not even clear, unclear factor.
Exactly. And she was like, well, I don't know. I don't remember her answers, but just, again, she wouldn't get it, and she was telling me that somebody at INT was telling her to disconnect from me. And she didn't want to, but she had to. And I was like, let's just talk tomorrow. And so we talked the next day or the day after, whenever we reconnected on Skype. We talked for a while, just pretty much the exact same conversation, just completely blindly believing a church. And she was like, I have to disconnect from you. I'm not going to be speaking with you anymore after this call. I said, you know what? Fuck you. And I closed the laptop. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I knew the time was going to come, and I just couldn't by that point, every Scientologist I know, and all my best friends that I've known for, 25 years or whatnot, had all disconnected from me. But obviously that stung, and what stung even more is that my dad didn't even speak to me. He didn't even tell me he was disconnecting from me. He just stopped talking to me.
Well,
So.
and that's it. They've never seen their grandkids. They've never reached out.
Well, they'd seen Kieran because he was born in England.
Okay.
So they had seen him. And then last year when I went to France to see my grandparents and my brothers and sisters, my mom happened to be at the train station, and so she saw Kieran and Sky briefly, but yeah. So I don't speak with my parents anymore, but they speak to all my brothers and sisters.
Right.
And to give you...
And none of them are Scientologists.
None of them are Scientologists.
Right.
And they speak to all of them on a daily, if not weekly basis. It's
Yeah.
crazy that a Scientologist will narrow down their point of view to such a stupid thing,
Their view of what somebody can do that is wrong is very different than what the real world has.
Yeah.
And it's so like bizarrely, it's just strange.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's what cults do, is they create these bizarre rules.
Yeah.
And then enforce rigid discipline on them. Like in the Jehovah's Witnesses, you can't listen to music, rock music, or you can't drink coffee. Or you're like, what are you talking about?
This makes no sense.
You will and you will be declared.
Yeah.
For drinking coffee.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
But it's just boom, it's just night and day.
Yeah.
Same kind of thinking with this, as you've committed the unforgivable act of thinking for yourself.
Which is absurd.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You think for yourself in Scientology, you're out.
Exactly. Which is ironic because they promote free thinking. They think they are free thinkers, but really they're trapped within L. Ron Hubbard's guidelines and rules and policies and
That's right.
regulations.
That's right. L. Ron Hubbard's and now David Miscavige's.
Yeah. So here I am.
That is, well, you're out.
Yeah, well, Chrissy and I have been married, 5.5 years now. We have had 2 kids together, and then there's Brianna, so we have 3 kids. And yeah.
Life's good.
Life's good.
Yeah.
Life's great. I'm in broadcasting. I'm doing sports. I get to be a geek and do sports at the same time. It's awesome for me. So
yeah. Well, the main thing is, the freedom of thought.
Yeah.
And there's not, and that, that monkey on your back, the whole time that you're under the influence of Scientology.
Yeah.
And when it comes off, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, that was that moment that night.
That's right.
It was just
that moment of clarity. Yeah.
It was nice.
Excellent. Good.
Did pretty nicely.
Well, if there was, just wrap this up then. If there was something you could tell to Scientologists, if you could say something to them at this point, what would you say?
If there was a Scientologist watching this right now, what could I tell them?
Yes.
Whatever they want to believe, that's okay. That's fine. But what they have to realize is that out of this bubble, there's life. And it's not full of scary, crazy people. It's not filled with psychiatrists killing people and drug dealers dealing drugs to people and wars happening everywhere, and it's not filled with theta. There's millions of people, literally, who are out there having families and kids and enjoying life around them and experiencing life beyond the restrictions of Scientology. And it's life. And whether you believe in reincarnation and having millions of lives or not or whatever, people out in the world understand and respect each other's beliefs, and they are not evil. These wogs are awesome, great people that are cool, and they're funny, and they're just regular people, you know, that move on with their lives and better themselves, just maybe differently than a Scientologist would better themselves. And to go out and experience all that is life. I mean, it is what it is.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. Exactly. And it's very liberating.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. I have very good news. What I'm announcing here is the culmination of 2 years of work on my part to expose Scientology and give you the actual facts about what really goes on behind its closed doors. I've completed and published what I believe to be the definitive guide to Dianetics and Scientology, titled Scientology A to Xenu, an insider's guide to what Scientology is all about. Why should you get this and read it? Well, if you want to understand how people are lured into destructive cults like this and why they stay, this book gives you those answers. If you want to know what Scientologists really believe and why they're willing to cash in their children's college funds, take out second and third mortgages, and even forsake family and friends, this book gives you those answers. If you want to understand why Scientology has amassed so much money and power, and why it seems that the police and the courts are powerless to stop them, those answers are in here as well. Was L. Ron Hubbard serious about Dianetics and Scientology, or was it all just some big con job from the very start? What did he really believe? Why did he start Scientology, and despite all his wealth and power, why did he die alone and afraid? Finally, everyone has heard that Scientology believes in space aliens and some guy named Xenu, and we've all seen South Park. But is that the whole story? Not even close. There's a lot more to know about why Scientologists think they're saving the world, and I break it all down piece by piece. I believe you will not find a simpler and more complete explanation of Scientology's confidential scriptures anywhere else. My own personal story is in here and in more detail than I've ever discussed before. How I grew up in Scientology, why I started working for them, and eventually joined the Sea Organization, and what happened exactly that made me come to my senses and get out. All of that is just chapter 1. For anyone who seriously wants to understand Scientology, you cannot do it without this book. It comes with a complete glossary of terms and an organizing chart so you can see the Scientology hierarchy and how it all works. It comes in paperback and as an ebook. I'm currently recording it as an audiobook as well. Buy it at the CreateSpace e-store or on Amazon today. I've put links to both in the description below. To all my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for your support over these past 2 years. You have made this possible. Believe me when I tell you, this is just the beginning. Stay tuned because a lot more is coming in this new year. Thank you for watching.